Have you ever met a leader or a communicator who was just extremely arrogant, full of themselves? When it comes to strategies to dealing with nervousness, arrogance is a strategy that always works. If you feel like you're better than everyone else, then you won't feel nervous because, hey, you're better than them anyway. However, even though arrogance will get rid of your nerves, you will get on the nerves of everyone else. So, how can a leader or a speaker, a communicator, be in upfront locations and positions and remain humble? Today, that's what we talk about in our show.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
When you first start out in a leadership position or communication, initially you're full of humility because you know that you don't know that much. Or generally, a lot of people are full of humility. Their pride hasn't had the chance to take their humility down. So humility ranks high because generally they realize that they don't have the skills, they don't really have the experience that they need to in order to really think too highly of themselves. So their humility is high and their skill and experience is relatively low. They might have the education for it, but they don't have the skill that has developed over a long period of time. So if you think about it like a balance, originally when we first start out, we're high on humility and we're low on skill and experience. But as time passes and the skills and experience go up, then all of a sudden this turns into kind of like a scale where there's a balance at the top. And there's got to find a balance. So as skill goes up, humility goes down. As skill goes up, humility goes down. Think about this like that communicator that came to your mind when I asked you, have you ever thought about an arrogant communicator? At first, at some point in time in their journey, they were high on humility. But over the course of time, as they got more and more praise from their communication and from their speaking, their humility went down as their skill went up. So a lot of people think of it like that. There's a skill, there's a balance. I want you to switch the way you think about humility and skill. Instead of it being a balance where they're tethered together with a chain at the top, and therefore there's always got to be one that's going up and one that's going down. I want you to think about this as a meter that's full. You can be full of oil in your car and full of gas. It's not either or like it is on a scale. There's both and. And I want you to be thinking about being high on humility and high on skill. That even though your skill goes up, even though your expertise goes up, even though your ability to communicate goes up, even though your leadership goes up, your humility ranks high. Now, why is this so vital that I would take a show to talk about humility in leadership and communication? It's because again and again, we impress people with our strengths, but we connect with people in our weakness. And it takes humility to realize that we actually have weakness. That's right. We impress people with our strengths. Look at me. This is what I can do. This is my IQ. These are my technical skills. Isn't that impressive? But we connect with people in our weakness where we can empathize with them as well. So in your journey as a communicator, in your journey as a team leader, in your journey as an executive, in your journey as a business owner, as a CEO, as a professional, make sure that you continually refill up on humility, even as you increase your skills, your understanding, your knowledge. Make sure that both of these are high instead of just balanced. Think full, not balanced. So what are some things that we can do to increase our humility? What are some things that we can do to not come across like that arrogant communicator, like that arrogant person that we don't want to be like? What can we do? I've had to search myself because there have been times where my humility dropped significantly. And it led to some really difficulties and some really difficult situations in my career. Some heartbreaking moments where I became a difficult person to handle in the organization that I worked at that time. And I look back at it, and I look back at really one of the things that happened was my humility dropped. So I've had to look back at my own life and I've had to examine this. How can I increase my humility? Let me just give you some of my takeaways. There's probably books about this and all kinds of other things. Not probably, there are. Humilitas is a great book about this, but I just want to give you three. First, accept and appreciate your skill. Part of being humble is not pretending that you're not skilled. Being humble isn't saying, no, don't worry about this. I don't have this. Being humble is accepting and appreciating the praise. It's not saying, yeah, of course, I deserve that. I'm amazing. You're right. Thank you for saying I did such a great job on that, but you don't really need to because I already know it. See, that's not humility. That's dropping it and going empty. But true humility says, wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I've looked back at some of the relationships I've had with people, and when you praise these people, they genuinely appreciate, thank you so much for saying that. One of the people that I've seen do this is Bob Berg. He's the author of the best-selling book, Go Giver. And even with his national acclaim with his co-author of the Go Giver series, he still remains extremely, extremely approachable and humble. High on skill, high on experience, and high on humility. You want both of these. In my book, Grow Your Soul, I talk a little bit about how my pride and my empty humility led to a despair even in my soul. You don't want to be like that. You want to be like the type of person that Bob Berg talks about in Go Giver. One of these people who is so full of humility and so full of expertise that you're overflowing with knowledge and generosity for others. So how do you develop more humility in your own life? You want to accept and you want to appreciate the praise that you receive for high skills. Second thing that I just wrote down, remember where you come from. Remember where you started. There's a good chance that you were not always the skilled person that you are today. And it's good to go back and remember your roots. It's good to go back and remember the people that invested in you. It's good to go back and realize you have not always been the incredible artist, speaker, leader, doer that you are now. Remember that journey and forget who you have become in your own mind for a moment and remember where you started and the roots of it. Go back. And here's the third thing. Not only do you want to appreciate and accept, not only do you want to remember, but you also want to start thinking of yourself less. See, I'm not saying you need to think less of yourself. In fact, I'm very big into believing in yourself. I write about it in my books. I write about it and I talk about it. I coach about it. I really am firmly a strong believer in believing in yourself. However, at the same time, even though I want you to believe in yourself, even though I do want you to think of yourself in good ways, in good terms, in good affirmations, in good declarations, I also encourage you to think of yourself less. One of the great ways that people can get out of slumps in life is to think about how to invest and add value to the people around them. In other words, to think less of themselves and their desires and their greeds and their wants and their aspirations. If you can find a way to go make someone else's dream come true, the amazing thing is not only will you make them feel better, but you'll actually feel better about yourself. It's a great way to cultivate humility. It also helps you remember some of the people that did that for you. And if you didn't have those people who did it for you, then you can start a new chain of people who pay it forward and pay it forward and pay it forward. Don't think less of yourself, that you're not great and you're not skilled. Just think of yourself less often. Now, what does this mean? It means that when you're speaking, You're thinking about, how does my message add value to the person I'm talking about, instead of, will they like me? I talk about that in my book, Speak with No Fear, how one of the great strategies to overcome nervousness is to be thinking about what your audience needs from you. Well, this is a great management and leadership technique too. How can I, instead of build my resume and build my platform, how can I build the people around me? Now, when you go back and start that original question, who comes to mind when you think of an arrogant person? I want you to think about, who comes to mind when you think about a humble person? Chances are it's not some pushover. Chances are it's someone that comes to your mind that has done a lot, but still doesn't consider themselves the most amazing, most awesome person that's a gift to humanity. They've done a lot, but they're humble in what they've done. I think that is a great aspiration for you, that when you're up front, you're not trying to minimize your skills and your expertise and your knowledge. You're just trying to minimize the ego and maximize your humility, because in that moment, you'll impress, but more important, you'll impact the people you're leading and the people you're speaking to.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.